How are you doing, Earl?
I'm doing great, David. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. And you know what? I'm really glad that we're finally at this point. And I would love for you to be able to tell everybody who you are. And I understand that you have some thoughts about some stuff you've seen on the internet, and you want to let people know how you feel about those things.
Yes, my name is Earl A. Hubbard Jr., aka Cool Earl from West Philadelphia. I used to write from January 67 till May 71 when I retired. Now, this is what I like, which has been on my mind. I wrote some things down. I like to express it to the people who are viewing this documentary. I know people love graffiti art and want to talk about it, but Akeem, on your YouTube channel, you put up a chart that is just straight ridiculous. None of those dates you have for Philadelphia are accurate. And some of us were a graffiti crew, but please understand, some of us were also in a social club that did not allow nor participated in graffiti. But Cool Earl, Cool Klepto Kid, and Bobby Cool did both. Club Odigma Experience was not a graffiti crew. So you got that wrong, Akeem. Now, hip hop historian, let me address you on your YouTube channel using the documentary movie Tag City by Culture Livingston. That whole documentary is straight up nonsense from the beginning to the end. You guys should stop reporting on this topic because your own confusion is overtly apparent. Thank you for your concern, but currently it's in the right hands. Just hang it up. You did a terrible job. Accept it.
Okay. So now I don't particularly know all of the stuff that are on these guys' channels, but I know that you did send me that chart because you saw it on
Yes.
Cornbread's
Yes.
Facebook. And I didn't see that chart. And then I did. And I just have to say, I'm not going to comment on any of the stuff from New York now. He's gotten that wrong as well. I don't think that this person is a bad person. I just think that they've made some mistakes. And I think possibly both of them are a little younger and not aware that you need to speak to the source. The majority of information that is out there, meaning the books and documentaries, they're wrong. There's very little bit that is correct in some of these books. And now, Earl, why don't you go on and tell the folks how you've been contacting people to set the record straight? Who have you contacted?
I've contacted Roger Gaston or Gassman
Yes, Roger Gassman
and
from Wall
informed
Riders.
him that when CB or Cornbread mentioned that I actually would be happy that he died so that I can take his place. I told him that, yeah, that's it's comical. I told him that that was a straight up lie. But coming from Cornbread, what do you expect? And
Yes,
I
and
and I also reached out to oh God, the what
Sly Artistic City, Robert Moran.
uh, Robert Moran. Yes, I reached out to him as well, but he did not, return my request. And
Yes,
as well as the guy who wrote in the Today's magazine.
the
Um,
aerosol autographers.
yeah, he did not return my,
You and I
request.
both reached out to him. That's Sandy Padwe. He is now the dean of journalism in Columbia University. Congratulations to Sandy, because I
Congratulations.
know he got fired, I believe, after writing the aerosol autographers. It was misunderstood. People thought he was trying to promote the graffiti. He was just
Uh,
trying to bring attention. I don't think it's his fault, but I know what you're getting at, because inside the text, he says that you guys started 2 years after Cornbread, and he has you guys down, I think, 1969. But what we can address right now, Earl, is the fact that,
that's
and
incorrect.
I know,
Yeah.
I see, I see it. What we can address is the fact that from the moment you met Cornbread, he lied to you and told you that he was 2 years older than you guys. So
Exactly.
you assume
Yes.
that, and that's why. Yeah, that's
And
not only.
that's why I told him, Bob Moran, that because he was older than me, that I assume that he started before me. and I
Right.
was going through a, tumultuous time in my life. I'm not going to talk about, and
Sure.
graffiti wasn't on the top of my priority list.
Right. And right. So you do the interview, and you're definitely not thinking that guys you knew from way back in the day were going to go and say these ridiculous things behind your back. First off, I've gotten to know you, Earl. So the one person that you are not is you are not a person on the sidelines. And not only that, you're not a person waiting for someone else's downfall. You,
No,
sir,
no, no.
you, sir, are, and this is why we're going to bring this out now. You're the one that has the first article in Philadelphia. And all the other newspapers beside the Philadelphia Evening Bulletin, okay, say it again, the
Yeah,
Philadelphia Evening Bulletin, that is a newspaper that reported properly. The other newspapers did not. And that's where the nonsense begins with Cornelius Hosey being
yeah,
mistaken for cornbread. And then we hear about cornbread, and it's on the front page, and it's about his false murder. He was not
right.
murdered. He's not Cornelius Halsey. And what's funny is on that front page, the mother of Cornelius is saying, I told you. And I want to make sure I get this correct. I think that's what it is. The mother saying, no, my son never wrote cornbread. And I don't know why you guys are saying this. Didn't you listen to Georgie Woods? And the real cornbread went on Georgie Woods because Georgie Woods shouted all of you guys out. He
Yeah,
shouted out the West Philly crew. He shouted out Cornbread. He shouted out T-Bop. He shouted out Dr. Cool. This is more where Cornbread's popularity comes into play because he
right.
was on the walls, and we're not
And
trying to take any of that away from him. But he
yeah,
wasn't
and
up half as much as you.
that was approximately in March or April of 71, which was actually 2 months before we retired.
Right,
Cornbread got in the
right,
newspaper erroneously at that.
right,
So, like I said, we started in January 67, and
right.
we retired May 2nd, 71, which was 2 months after Cornbread first got in the papers. And the other one, the Vandals spray paint the city, that was August 26, 1970.
Yeah,
So
we're going to get to that.
we'd already
Yeah,
put in
yeah.
3 years and 6 months of work to
And
get to
we're going to
that.
get to that right now.
Yeah,
And
and
let
you
me
know
just,
who we were mentioned with.
yes, let me finish my thought first on the fact that
Okay.
the reporting from the other newspapers was a lousy job because all they had to do was go to they have the address of the person. You put the address in the paper, but yet you don't even go and find out if this is cornbread. So they were looking
Right.
for headlines. And the graffiti was popular at the time. And they said, oh, this guy Corn, his nickname is
Right.
Corn. It must be cornbread. And no one went and investigated. They ran with the story, and it turned out to be total bullshit. But that is where Cornbread gets his article from, which
Which
sparked
happened
a
to be his first article.
lot of popularity for his name. But now let's go back to the actual first and who the people are that you are named with. And this is what's great. So
Yeah.
I'll put up the article. I basically have this first paragraph memorized because, well, this is my research. And this is why I know Cool Earl, the Cool Klepto Kid, Chewy, the West Philly Mob. These are the guys. So in August 26, 1970, the
Right.
Philadelphia Evening Bulletin puts out a story called Spray Vandals Leave Mark on City. And in the very
City.
first
Yes.
paragraph, it says, Kilroy was here. Bobby Beck had his day. But
Day.
now, Cool Earl and Chewy are the reigning kings of the Philadelphia Walls. Now, that might not be word for word, but that is exactly what they say. And we're going to put that up there so everybody's going to be able to see this. So, this is what I don't understand, Earl. When Cornbread says that no one was writing from 1967 to 1969, what a whopper. What a whopper that is. Because
That was a
how are
straight
you,
up lie.
right? How are you going to become so popular within the matter of what, 7 months that you're the one that ends up getting in the newspaper first? No, that was years of putting work
And
in.
being in the same sentence as Kilroy and Bobby Beck.
There you go. So there's a lot of downplay on Bobby Beck. And we already know A matter of fact, right in the documentary you mentioned, Tag City, the first thing that Cornbread says is, oh, he was a flash in the pan. Well, let me tell you this, Daryl. Okay, Daryl McRae. If Bobby Beck is a flash in the pan, how did Cool Earl see him? How Cool Earl see him? How Klepto Kid see him on the walls? Why is Dr. Cool saying the name Bobby Beck hypnotized me? Why does T-Bop? T-Bop gave me a quote. Okay, Earl? And the quote is this: if there's a first king of Philadelphia, it's Bobby Beck. And if there's a first king of the hype, HYPE, the hype, that's Cornbread. Now that's coming from a guy right in North Philly. Earl, that's right in his neighborhood. And let's go further with T-Bop because it's in print. T-Bop said, I, and what's the word I'm looking for? He said, I patterned myself on how I attacked the city. I patterned myself after Bobby Beck. Now, in that same section in Wall Riders, where everybody talks about Bobby Beck, this is what's the funniest. How could Cornbread of spread graffiti? We know he says he spread it around the world. That's just ridiculous. If you're not even the first in your city, and nobody from the first wave of young black teenagers cites you as an inspiration, why are you lying to the world? And listen, there's not one. You ain't going to hear Dr. Cool say that. Dr. Cool tells folks in Graffiti Boys Swear Off, I raised that boy on the walls. Now, a lot of people want to know what that means. We'll really have to talk to Dr. Cool about that.
Well, that actually is saying that Dr. Cool was before Cornbread. That's
And
what
we
it's
know
saying.
he was
Yeah, and
because,
a lot of people were. The whole West Philly crew was
yes,
before
yes,
Cornbread by at
yes.
least 2 years, at least a year and 4 months.
And we're going to get into that exact dates
Yeah.
because it's coming straight from Cornbread's testimony. But check this out. Dr. Cool begins in the summer of 1967, and his testimony is that he did not leave his neighborhood for a year because it was very violent and gangs were out to get you if they saw. Now, this is the same situation that
Okay, now let me interrupt you there.
sure,
That's what's also different about us. We never rode in our own neighborhoods.
there you go.
We went in everybody else's neighborhood.
There you
And
go.
we didn't ask for no darn permission, like Cornbread said. Who asks for permission from gangbangers? You get in, you get out, you get on with your life.
Cornbread said that before.
Yeah, he asked for permission and got permission. Who does that? I can't believe that. Okay, I
It
don't
just
believe that
sounds ridiculous. Well, I'll
because
tell you
it's
this.
almost like a death wish when I
Uh,
was coming up.
yes, yes, exactly. You're not going to go to the gang
Yeah,
and ask permission. So let's. I'll
get
tell
that.
you one story somebody told me. Cornbread was going off bragging about how everybody loved him, and I'll leave the person's name out of it for now. You know who I'm talking about. It's very its reputation is not to be messed with. But he said, Cornbread, so how come that gang bopped you in the head with the pipe that day? And then when you said, oh, hey, it's me, Cornbread, they said, what? And bopped you in the head again. So as far as the gangs go, let's clear this up, Earl. A lot of people think that Cornbread was actually already written in the youth detention center because we know that there were several gangs that had Cornbreads
It's the
in
same
them.
names. Yeah.
And check it out. If he's anything, he's like the fourth or fifth Cornbread to actually exist in Philadelphia. Now, granted, the other guys were gang members, but they were putting Cornbread up on the wall underneath their gang. Other popular names: Stone, Blood, Crazy. These were popular names
Yeah.
for some of the gangs, I was told. Rest in peace to Sank. Oh man, we just lost Sank the other day. If
Amen.
if
My
anybody
friend,
doesn't,
Stink.
yes, if anybody doesn't know who Sank is,
Yeah.
Sank was the graffiti
That's a
ambassador
heavy loss there.
for Philadelphia. He started
Yeah.
writing in 1973. He wrote SANK. And let me tell you how much we love him in New York. He sent stuff to Taki. Taki has it in his garage. Sank sent him something with a big smile. Charmin 65. Okay, Charmin 65. I have this picture. I'll put it up of Sank giving her a kiss when she visited down in Philly. And I spoke with Charmin, and she is a queen. She went down to the funeral. Okay, and as we found out, Cornbread showed up to the funeral and didn't even come inside and pissed everyone off. What are you
That's what
even
I was
coming here
informed.
for?
That's what I was
Right?
informed.
What are you even coming here for? Now, Charmin, okay, she's going to be co-hosting a conference with me, as you know, Earl, and we're gonna have you up, Earl. We're gonna really set this record straight. You're gonna visit the Big Apple. The Klepto Kid's gonna come. Cold Duck is already here. Bob Rivera from the United Graffiti. What was it again? How do you? What's the?
It was the alternative graffiti work program.
There you go. I have the UGA in my head, which we were just talking about, United Graffiti Artists, but that's New York's side of it.
Yeah.
Now, yes, the alternatives, the alternative graffiti workshop. See, that starts with you guys, and I don't want to bounce around. We'll get to that in a minute. But as far as going
That
back,
actually started in 71 during the summer,
right? But getting back to the fact that
which led to the murals in Philadelphia, which is now the mural capital of the
yes,
world. So I'm
yes,
here.
yes, yes. Now getting back to Sank. See, I'm put in a very, it's a moving, it moves me, it touches me deeply. On the
Mm,
New York City side,
yeah,
phase two, who is no longer with us, he
yeah,
passed away in 2019. After Wall Riders came out in 2016, I had a long talk with phase two, and he told me, do not let Cornbread steal our New York culture anymore. And Sank told me, and we didn't
yeah,
know that Sank was going to pass away. He didn't tell folks
yeah.
that
Do
he
not
how sick
stop.
he was, and he
Yeah,
would just stay high spirits on the phone with me. And I
yeah,
really, okay, you and Sank did something. I'm born in 1970. You and Sank, and I don't know how it came. You both called me Davy one time, and that's
yeah.
what
I
my
did. Yeah,
uncles. That's what my uncles used to call me. And man, Earl, I love you, my brother, because we got to know each other, and you remind me,
love you too,
and
David.
yes, and you remind me of my family. And Sank was a little younger than you, and he reminded
Yeah,
me of my youngest uncle, and none of them are with me anymore. Okay, so Sank says to me, Davy, I want you to listen to me. And he already knows that I was going to get teared up when he called me that, right? But he goes, Davy, no matter what happens, and I didn't know why he was saying this, Earl. He said, no matter
yeah,
what happens, this is a month ago or two ago. He said, you make sure that you follow through, and you make sure that you give those props to where they belong, to West Philly, and you make sure that you expose Cornbread for the liar that he is. Was he a legend on the walls of Philly? Yes, and he should just be happy with that. You know?
yeah.
So, you know what, Earl? I see.
Think was a real man. He didn't
Yeah,
even
you
let
know
you
what?
know that he was hurting. He didn't
Both
even
of
let you
us are
know that
getting a
he was
little,
hurting.
yeah,
Yeah,
both of us are getting a little teary-eyed right now over
yeah,
this. This is
yeah,
real. This just happened. Okay, this just happened. We're going to stop right here because you're going to make me go to tears because this is how real it is, man. And
yeah.
this artwork
Yeah.
touched people, and we're not going to allow people to come in.
And for Cornbread not to even go inside the funeral while
Oh,
it was going
man.
on, it's just
Oh,
unacceptable
man.
and disrespectful, quite frankly.
Earl, I know we both need to take a minute right now. Let me stop this recording right now because because I want to end it with this saying that every single cat that I spoke to in Philly, it was not what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to get a fight. I thought people were going to defend Cornbread. The people who I thought were gonna, they did. And I told them, I'm not buying 1 ounce of it. You're talking to the wrong guy. They laughed and they quickly realized that they were on the phone with the truth. I am the truth. Cool Earl is the truth. We're going to get back. We're going to get back to this, Earl. I'm going to cut it right now. Take a minute before I start bowling, and we'll get back to this. All right, Earl.
All right.
So I'm definitely not going to apologize to anybody for having to cut that short. Earl and I obviously had somebody in our life that affected us, was a good person, and was a person who understood exactly what was going on with Cornbread. And what we want to make clear right now is that we're talking about his lies. But what we want to make clear is nobody is saying that Cornbread never wrote or participated in his movement in his city. What we are saying is, why can you not be satisfied with that, Cornbread? And why do you make up these lies that were made up years ago? You're 71 years old, Daryl McRae, and you're telling the lies of a teenager. They sound ridiculous. And you're expecting people to believe these lies. Now, I'm certain you're going to want to address that as well. Why are we talking about Cornbread?
Well, first of all, I just want to say this and make it perfectly clear. I'm not here to bash Cornbread. I'm not here to bash anybody. I love Philadelphia. I love New York. I love everybody. Okay. But there's some things that have been said and actually done that needed to be cleared. And he's involved. And, there's some apologies that should be made to Ronald Fair and his family. And, I'm sick that he got me. He's mentioning my name in this lie about the movie being about us, and we see each other occasionally, and he would say, "Well, let's just say this, or let's say that," and then the light bulb went off, and I knew that this was just a bunch of lies, and I lost some respect for him. But he's still my friend, and I'm not here to bash him, but I am here to speak the truth.
Well, you're not the only person that's told me this. Sank, may he rest in peace, okay, told me that at one point in time they were driving up to New York, and he said, just tell these people that this happened in 1969. I don't know what it was, but Sank said, man, you asking me to lie for you now? And, you know, that's where people really started to realize what was going on. And I
see, once you run into him every now and then, like I said, he had a tendency to, how can I put it, give you a script to say this or to say that, and, and it just didn't flow with me. Once I realized that it wasn't true, I didn't want any parts of it, and I told him, frankly, to his face, nothing's good is going to come out of this.
Right, right. And what about Ronald Fair, though? You know what I mean? So let's talk about Ronald Fair for a moment, because this is again going to tear me up, because all of the reason why Cornbread got outed is a book club, okay? Of all the individuals in the world, a book club. The George Floyd incident happened, and we all remember that line, "I can't breathe." So Ronald Fair, who was an African American author, he wrote a book called "We Can't Breathe," and it's about life for Black folks in America. Now, I don't just read authors based on their color. That has nothing to do with what it is. I want to read what is good and what is out there. So this book club is reading Ronald Fair's novels because they noticed one of the novels said, "We can't breathe." And then his novel, Hog Butcher, came up on their radar. They read Hog Butcher. So Hog Butcher comes out in 1965. It has a publishing copyright in the Library of Congress, January 1st, 1966, which means that book was already made in 65 and we're starting at the beginning of the year. So the reason why I'm saying this is because in the novel Hog Butcher by Ronald Thayer, I advise everybody to go and read this book. So in the very first page, we meet the character Earl. So this is years before you even meet Cornbread. You don't know Cornbread in 1965.
No, I think we met in 69.
So what's happening here is he's attempting to tell people that Hollywood agents came to make a movie about his life and your life based on a novel that's already written. Page 10 in the novel, we're then introduced to the character Cornbread. He is a basketball player, a young black teenager who is about to go to college in a week or two in the movie. And he gets killed because cops do a bad job. And then it basically comes down to the horrific, the stuff that black folks were put through in the courts all comes out in this particular novel. Again, everybody should read this, because if you're wondering why you see something wrong and it's wrong for you to say, hey, stop that, this is wrong, then you're perpetuating the problem even more. And this problem in particular is racism in America. And this book touches on this, right? So you now have asked me, please, let me know about this book. I want to know about Ronald Thayer. And when you found out that Ronald Thayer passed away and that this is really his novel and this is his intellectual property, meaning the character's Earl and the character's Cornbread. And the book is written years before you even meet each other. Now, as a young teenager, Earl, there you go. You said, hey, I didn't know. I believed him at first. Now, though, it comes full. And this is the crazy part, is you told me how. Okay, Cornbread has this story where you guys in 1975 are sitting in the movie theater. You watch the movie over and over again. Cornbread Titty and Cool Earl, and you're sitting there crying. Earl, can you please tell the world where you were in 1975? Can we clear this up right now?
Oh, yeah. 1975, I was stationed at Dover Air Force Base for already approximately 2 years in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. This did not happen. I never went to a movie theater with Bread, looked at the movie, cried, etc., etc. This is all of this make believe, and I wasn't there. It's not true.
Right.
I was serving my country. I was moving on with my life, creating a life and career.
And thank you for your service, Earl. We appreciate that, because
thank you for your support.
Yes, because a lot of people don't. It's very tough for soldiers at times, because sometimes you might even feel that you're fighting for something you might not even believe in totally. You know what I mean? But here you are just wanting to defend your country. That's hard enough. So I do thank you for your service. And let me ask you this now, Earl. Do you remember Hollywood agents coming to Philadelphia and asking Cornbread to do this movie? Did you tell those Hollywood agents, if you're going to do a story about Cornbread, I want to be in that? And then the agent says to you, well, who are you? And you say, I'm Cool Earl. Did that happen?
I don't recall anything like that. I do recall that it never happened.
Okay. Right.
That's what I recall.
Right.
All of that is yes.
Now I'm going to tell you, I'm still not even really over what happened in the last video. It sank. It's all of this stuff really makes me aggravated. But what I'm beginning to realize right now is I'm looking at you on the screen, Earl, and I see the truth. And I know that this is going to come out, and I know that people are going to begin to understand, let's listen to what these guys are saying, because none of what Daryl McCray is saying is literally matching up to any of this. And let's go deeper on the scripting. I spoke to people who were in his video, The Cry of the City, And shout out to John Ski real quick, because John Ski is the one that came up with that title, and Cornbread did not ask permission. Shout out to John Ski, Philadelphia legend. And he took that title, and in his documentary, he tells all of these stories, and they're all just unbelievably ridiculous. And I can't believe that people interview him and no one's put one and one together yet. So now everybody needs to go out and read Ronald Fair, Hog Butcher, copyright 1966, years before Cornbread ever met Earl. It's not a story about Cornbread and Cool Earl. And Earl is here telling you this right now. So thank you for your testimony, Earl. We now know that those dates prove everything. They prove everything. And when that book came out, I wouldn't doubt that that book made it into the Philadelphia Youth Detention Center, because they did try to bring readings to the children. And he's in there in 1966. And that book came out. It was popular. Yeah, we're going to go through. Okay, let's go through that. Let's go through that right now. So this is from his testimony, and it's very difficult to track this down. I actually called court systems and so forth. So this is to you, Daryl. If you really rode on that elephant and you got arrested for that elephant, it's up to you to bring your ID down and show us the paperwork. You don't show us the paperwork, please stop telling that story about the elephant, because it's ridiculous. And I got the facts from that. Okay. Guys wrote on a statue of an elephant inside the zoo. No one wrote on a real elephant. And these guys have their version of it, and they say, no, I was there, but I was in the other side of the zoo. Okay, did you physically see the writing on the elephant? No, I didn't. But if you pay attention to when Cornbread tells the story, he goes in there alone at 6:45 in the morning to do this. So he's discrediting everybody else who is trying to give him some credit. You see this enigma, right? So, but this is where it gets deeper. The elephants are not out at 6:45 in the morning. Okay, it's a very dated term that they use for the mammals. But if you go to the map of the zoo, the Philadelphia Zoo from 1970, it's called the pachydermies. Okay, so it's the pachydermy house. The elephants are not out on their own. They're housed every night because foundations have to make sure that the zookeepers do certain things every day. And what that is after you lock the mammals in, you're going to come back the next morning and you're going to check their entire body to make sure that they didn't hurt themselves during the evening. You're going to then feed them inside, and then you're going to clean them. The zoo doesn't open until 9:30. So what are you talking about, Cornbread? You snuck in at 6:45 and you say you jumped down into the ring and you tagged the elephant? Ridiculous nonsense. It is bullshit. And then you say, you got arrested. So show us the paperwork. I want to see the paperwork.
And I believe also he said, again, I'm not here bashing nobody. But again, I believe he said that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the police officers inside the jail cell realized it was him and wanted his autographs. So, well,
I'm going to link people
of what he says with a grain of salt.
I'm going to link people up to this particular video where he tells 3 different stories about that. Remember, I showed you that. First, he says his mother's dead. Then he says the judge tells him, "Oh, I'm gonna send you to the youth detention or whatever." And then the third version is somebody actually asks him. I think it's Art of Reality YouTube. I'm going to get this all for the people. Don't worry about it. But he tells this guy. The guy asks him, "So did you get bailed out?" And Cornbread says, "No, my mom came down. I didn't have to get bailed out." My brother, you told everyone your mother was dead. You told everyone your mother was dead, and now you're saying your mom bailed you out. But let's go one deeper with the mother. He says in his Cry of the City video, he says, "All I wanted was to get that movie money to take my mom out of the projects." If your mom's passed away in 1969, who are you taking out of the projects in 1975? But let's go to the dirtbag portion of it. In Cry of the City, we find out that cornbread.
That wasn't the dirt bag.
Okay. I got cheers, Earl. In Cry of the City, he was given an opportunity, and they actually spoke to the gentleman. Is some Caucasian dude, and they gave him an opportunity where they were going to use the name Cornbread as a branding. Remember we talked about this, and there was going to be mac and cheese, there was going to be loaves of bread, and it was going to say cornbread on it. So what happened? The guy said, we waited for him. He never showed up. What happened to Cornbread that day was he went and did dope and got arrested. So here's a real opportunity to actually make money branding yourself and branding your name, and you blew that. But you want to get on your video and cry about some movie money and bringing your mom out of the projects. Let me say this. Everybody who wants to bring their mother out of the projects, I appreciate that. I remember my days in the center, in the projects in Queens. We learned karate. We had the little cookies and that little, carton of milk in the afternoon, and we put the radio on and the girls would dance. And again, we learned the karate, and then your parents came and picked you up. I was also in the summer camp in the projects. So they would take us all on the cheese bus, all the Wild Project kids. This is how I meet kids from Queensbridge projects. This is how I meet kids from Astoria projects. We're all at the pool, right? And then, oh, you're from a project too? Oh, no wonder why we're the ones acting crazy, right? Pushing kids in the pool. So I appreciate wanting to remove family members from the projects, but I also want to say I have loved ones in the projects who are still there. And, you can't take everyone with you, but I often go to these memories. So I think it's despicable for him to say this, knowing his mother had already passed away. It's like, what lows does this guy not sink to? So we're not, yeah.
We all will have to answer before God.
Yes. Yes. Now, you mentioned it and you said it. Look, we went through the stuff. The last thing I'm going to say to you is, hey, Cornbread, next time you think about this, why don't you try tagging on the airplane so that when the airplane comes into Philadelphia, everybody can see your name, as opposed to you riding on a plane that is leaving that no one sees. But this is the funniest part of that story. Once again, a lie. So Cornbread says he tagged a 747 that the Jacksons came in on. First off, the Jacksons did not have a private plane. Okay, they always flew commercial. So the 747 that came into Philly that day was a commercial jet airliner. And when Cornbread explains it, he says how the stairs come out from the plane. So he's describing a private jet. Now, Earl, where were you? What?
It sounds like the 50s.
What did you? Well, not only that, then he says that he waited to see the plane take off, and then when he saw the propeller start to, right. Earl, please let everybody know what arm of the service were you in?
I was a jet engine mechanic supervisor. Jet engine mechanic supervisor in the Air Force. And, 747 does not have propellers. They have turbofans.
All right, I'm sorry, Earl. Say that again.
A 747 does not, and it's just like the C5A that I worked on. It does not have a propeller that turns. It has turbofans inside the engine.
Earl, how many college degrees do you have?
4.
Okay, so are you believing his story? Do you believe the propellers on the 747?
Absolutely.
It's just ridiculous. But this is the thing. And yeah, but you would think
there are no propellers.
You would think after 20 years that one of his friends would pull him aside and say, "Yo, Bread, what's going on with you, bro?" And then on his airplane, on his shirt, I think it's a 747 with no propellers, but he sells the cornbread on the 747. But you always mention the propellers. Why are the propellers not on your shirt? So look, Earl, we're gonna.
Did he mention also he snuck on the plane or something?
Now, well, he says he snuck up the stairs and he wrote it real quick. You wouldn't have been able to get Cornbread out. It's Cornbread has what? How many? Cornbread. Come on, bro. You're getting that spread across the plane from leaning over on the staircase that they roll up.
He has a tendency to embellish everything. When he
Everything.
said he was in the zoo, for example, he went in, he hit the elephant.
The zoo told me none of this ever happened.
That he hit not only the elephant, but the trees, the walls, the this, the that. Come on, yeah, it's unbelievable.
The zoo told me that never happened. Also, Roger Gassman.
Much information is drowning.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not here to bash.
Yeah, we're gonna move on from that. I'll just say though, Roger Gassman also called the Philadelphia Zoo, and they said nothing like that ever happened. And how is somebody getting to the elephant? Because you can't just jump over the fence. You can't. You can't get into the elephant's area just jumping a fence.
First of all, anybody with good sense. I was in Hawaii when at the circus the elephants got away and
talk about it.
Killed one of the trainers. These are dangerous animals, and they had to be shot in the streets of Honolulu. And I don't know what fool would want to jump in a cage with an elephant.
So let's leave it at this.
Wouldn't live to tell about it.
Yeah,
no.
let's leave it at this.
Yeah.
A very
So no, I don't believe that either.
Yes, a zoologist told me. Do you have any idea how sensitive the nostrils on the end of the trunk of the elephant are? So the minute
they would have went off just smelling the spray paint.
That's my house paint, spray paint, whatever you would have picked up. It didn't matter how old or how calm the elephant was. The smell alone would have triggered him to want to move away from it because it was, and this is what the zoologist said, it is a toxic, unfamiliar smell to them. They're not going to stick around. So you know what he forgot? He forgot his camera. He forgot his ladder because the elephant's 14 feet tall. I mean, come on, man. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. And I know that there's some stories that come up and Titty tries to take his back. Let's just say rest in peace to Titty Peace-Sign.
Rest in peace, brother Titty.
You know, and what we're going to do, Earl, for the remainder, we've spoken enough about Cornbread, and what we want to do is we want to start to get you involved with the Cool Klepto Kid. I'm going to do some Zooms with the kid. Another great guy. Me and the kid get along great. I sent them that Zorro comic, like I was telling you, over the Christmas time period. And the research, just to let the viewers know why, the kid, who is the one who put Cool in front of Earl, right?
The first time it was ever written.
Yeah, and so he's in.
Well, he put Eddie.
Right.
And I'm asking to put my name up there on the wall on the L's, and I'm expecting to see Earl, and he wrote Cool Earl. So. Cool Klepto Kid, even before he was called Cool Klepto Kid.
Right.
Eddie.
Right.
Wrote Cool Earl for me.
Right.
Before I did.
Right. And
then it was on. It was on. I liked it.
Right. And you rolled with it, and why wouldn't you? And the kid told me.
Like you said, people, I didn't give myself that name.
Right.
They gave it to me.
Right.
Eddie gave it to me.
Yes, sir. And this is what the kid told me. He said, first off, we all saw Kilroy everywhere. Kilroy kind of let us know this is what wall writing is. It was like an initiation to see a name on the wall and, oh, okay, I keep seeing that. But more importantly, and Taki 183 says the same things. And the last time I spoke with Taki, he remembered this and he said, I want to tell you something though. It wasn't just Kilroy. And this is what the kid told me too. They used to watch Walt Disney on Sunday nights, and it was Zorro. And both Taki and the kid from two different, because you guys are in the same age group. This is why these things are happening in New York and Philly at the same time. Not because Cornbread's manipulating, because you were teenagers and you were raised on Kilroy and raised on, seeing that wall with the face hanging over and knowing this. So,
Yeah.
but Zorro, it was that anonymity.
Everybody was into Zorro, but
Yes. And Eddie said it was the anonymity. And that's what Taki said, too. The fact that Zorro had the mask on and he would go around with that sword and whip that Z, right? And they loved the thought of the anonymity. Like they were kind of getting over a little bit. Nobody knew, but the insiders, And it's just hysterical that Taki and the kid have these same memories. And they would, and you know what? And I want to say this, too. The Klepto Kid is a class act, and he gets along with Taki, and Taki gets along with him. And the first thing that I said when I said, hey, kid, I really hope you can make it up there. Hey, you think Taki's going to be there? You think Taki's going to be there? So this is the class acts that, we need. We need to hear the truth. We need to hear people who are willing to speak their truths. And at this point in time, I understand that folks in Philly told me, it kind of was all that Bread had. And we didn't want to bust his bubble. We knew he didn't send it around the world, but we also didn't know that he was talking trash about us in these interviews behind our backs. And now that researchers have come along and pointed these things out.
That's something. During one of what's the guy's name? He's Culture Livingston.
Okay, yes.
He had this what is it, Tag of the City or something?
Tag City.
Anyway, he was interviewing Bread at the time, and he was saying, "How are you concerned about anybody?" And he said, "No, Bread said he sets the trend, and they follow his lead." And so Livingston brought up the fact, "What about Cool Earl?" And he said, disrespectfully, the way I seen it, Bread was very disrespectful. And I'm saying it to your face.
Yeah, I'll put the footage up. I'll put it up.
He was very disrespectful by saying that Cool Earl didn't come about until this movie. I didn't get fame or notoriety until this movie, Cornbread, Earl, and Me. But as it stands, I had already been
crowned the king
in the Air Force for 2 years when it came.
Right.
And it wasn't true. It wasn't true. I mean, we're writing 2 years before we even heard of Cornbread.
So,
and as a matter of fact, what I seen first on the walls, other than our tags from West Philly, was Dr. Cool, Dr. Hank.
Talk about it.
What is that? Dr. Cool, Dr. Hank, T-Bob, Hook.
TOOK. Yep.
Yeah. Then Lewis came along years later.
Right.
Years later.
But
Cornbread and Titty, of course. And Titty is a classy guy. I met him in person. He was a class act. And you can learn a lot from Titty. God
rest in peace to Titty. Well, he was very loyal to Cornbread. We know that.
Yeah, my point is this about that documentary. Cornbread just flat out lied.
Yeah.
How could I have gotten? When did the movie come out?
1975.
Okay, the movie came out. He said I didn't get my notoriety until 1975 when the movie came out, but I had already retired on May 2nd of 1971 and had put in at least 3 years or so of work on these walls when the article. Vandals in the City came out in August 26th of 1970. So
it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
It's a lie, and it's all provable.
And that's what we're going to leave folks with on this one. Yes, I totally understand, and that's what we're going to leave folks with. I'm going to put the article up, and everybody who's watching this had better go out and read Hog Butcher by Ronald Fair and read there's a few books by him, but we have the one about our breath. We lost our breath. I can't remember the exact title right now. We Can't Breathe. Right. Thank you, my brother. I had just mentioned it, and you know how that goes. But what I'm saying is, folks need to educate themselves and go out there and read Ronald Fair. All you have to do is look at the inside cover. the Library of Congress copyright date, and you will see that Cornbread is lying about this totally. But let's leave it at this.
And I'd like to take this time to also apologize to Ronald Fair's family.
Go ahead.
For all of the hardship it's caused, and I want them to know right now.
Yeah, his daughter's very depressed over it.
I had nothing to do with this.
His daughter's very depressed over it. A matter of fact, she. And
I don't think an apology is too much to ask for.
No, she doesn't even want to deal with so let's just say this. That book club that I mentioned in the last round, they sent Cornbread a cease and desist letter, which is a legal document telling him you are lying. You are guilty of criminal libel. If you continue to tell this story, which is stealing the intellectual property of Ronald Fair, we're going to wrap you up in court. But the daughter's very, very depressed. And she, let's just leave it at that. Sometimes depression can cripple you and you can't move. So
they say good things come to those who wait. So, this episode isn't done.
Yeah, but she's not going to get anything from Cornbread anyway. I mean, there's no monetary.
I don't wish any harm on anybody.
Right. But sometimes when you open up these cans of worms in your life, these are the things that come back to haunt you. So right now, why are we talking about this stuff? Because it's amazingly disrespectful.
Is nothing sacred? Cornbread even lies about his own mother. In this next clip, we hear Cornbread tell another fantastic tale. The Philadelphia Zoo claims it never happened, and there are no photos to back up the story. But Cornbread insists that he tagged Cornbread Lives on a live elephant. He also claims he was caught red-handed and arrested exiting the zoo. In his testimony, he says he was brought before a judge. If this is true, there will definitely be paperwork from the court proceedings. Even if he was a minor, he can still retrieve his paperwork with photo ID. What you are about to hear is Cornbread change his testimony. In the first clip, he says his mother and grandmother had passed away, so the judge put him in a community-based program, whatever that means. Let's listen.
Within a minute.
Now, let's just say if the authorities would have caught you doing that, do you think you would have got?
My authorities did catch me. Authorities did catch me.
Okay.
When I came out that pit, the whole zoo was at my disposal. I just bombed out the whole zoo, the concession stands, the picnic tables, the trees, the water fountain, other housing, bathrooms, women's bathrooms. I just bombed out the whole zoo, right? And somebody was in the zoo. Somebody was in my zoo seeing what I was doing and called the cops. By the time I got to the turnstile, it was pouring up, reaching for the guns. Don't fucking run. I'm like, ain't this? Put your hands on top of your head. I put my hands on top of my head. Came up, put my hands on the back of me. I took me to the police station. Now I was up all night trying to be at zoo on time. I get to the police station. I'm tired. I'm laying down trying to get me some rest. Every 5 minutes, cops come down to the holding cell. Which one of y'all is Cornbread? I said, right here. What's up? Kid, give me an autograph. All day long. So all the guys on the cell block was like, yo, Cornbread. Who the fuck is you, man? What's up with you, man? Fucking cops actually. They didn't know what time I'm just getting started. Wow. I goes to court. It was like a circus, man. I mean, the judge is more interested in knowing what made me tick than what I'm in front of him for. He asked the courtroom clerk, get Cornbread's autograph. Come over to me. I signed the autograph, gave it back, then gave it to the judge. I knew he was not going to hurt me.
Wow.
They put me in a community-based program because my mom died, my grandmom died, and they weren't trying to hurt me because what I was doing was not sinful behavior. Graffiti is not sinful behavior. right? And when I came home, man, like it was I was the new phenomena. I'm like, wasn't nothing else going on. Was no hip hop, was no graffiti going. If you check your record, you'll find there's no other hip hop artist that was before me. You check your record, you'll find there's no graffiti artist that was before me.
Wow.
Now, in this next clip, he tells the same story, but with a different outcome. This time, he says his mother was alive and came and got him, so he did not need bail after the judge saw him. His testimonies are constantly changing.
You just
No,
like
man,
I'm
no,
gonna stay at the
I wrote
elephant.
no more, but I wrote on their houses. I wrote on
Mm,
the houses,
mm-hmm.
the park bench, the concession stands. I wrote on the tables. And I just bombed the whole zoo out, man. With trees, I just bombed the whole zoo out. Now I would have got away with that. And I just wrote on the elephant and came out the zoo and went about my business. But no, and and bad there, somebody else was in that zoo, man. Somebody else was in that zoo
Yeah,
and called the cops. By the time I got to the turnstile, the cops was pulling up. Come on, let's go, Cornbread. I said,
that's
okay.
crazy.
Yeah, now look,
There wasn't no other guards working and nobody. You didn't see nobody else.
somebody was in that zoo and seen what I did and called the cops. And I caught me on my way out. Now, had I just hit the elephant and left, I would have went home. So they take me to the police station. And I'm up half the night trying to get to the zoo 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. And I'm
Yeah,
bad there.
you gotta flip the camera. You gotta
Flip
flip it
the
on
camera.
your side. The little top part up top.
Flip the camera. Andre, you there?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
here.
okay, okay, yeah. All right. So
Yeah, like that.
the whole time at
Yeah,
the
I'm sorry.
police, the whole time at the police station, man, I'm sitting there trying to get some rest. I was up half the night, trying to be at the zoo in time before anybody got there. And
Yeah.
in 10 minutes, cops coming downstairs. I'm coming down there to the hotel and said, "Which one of y'all was Cornbread?" I said, "Here, give me an autograph." This was all day long, man. So all the guys in the top like, "Yo, Cornbread, who the fuck is you, man? What you do, man?" They talked to me like that. They didn't know, man. That was the beginning of some new shit, man.
Somebody asked how much was the bail.
No, they didn't know that was the beginning of some new shit.
No. Like they didn't like to get bailed out. Like how much was
No,
your
that
bail?
was a juvenile, man. I was a juvenile. My mom came and got me.
Oh yeah.
Even after he has been asked to retrieve the paperwork from the Philadelphia criminal court system, he always fails to do so, and that's because the paperwork probably does not exist. It is a long time now that this request has been made to him, and he continues to string people along. It is a proven fact that all Cornbread needs is to make an appearance and present photo ID, and he can retrieve this paperwork. So ask yourself, wouldn't you like to present the paperwork if you had made such a wild claim about riding on the side of an elephant?